We're all delighted the justice system worked. But the reason it's bittersweet is because it never should have misfired to begin with. And the reason it misfired is because people were afraid to speak truth to power. And I want to call out first the newspaper in Durham, North Carolina, the Durham Herald-Sun, who to this day has not written a single editorial critical of the way in which Mike Nifong proceeded. If the Durham Herald-Sun had bothered to stand up and demand proper processes, the presumption of innocence, and doing things the way our Constitution provides, do you think Mike Nifong would have rolled forward? Instead, they published editorials talking about how bad all the lacrosse players were, and that the lacrosse players should have to prove their innocence, and that in addition to the crimes that night, there was a crime of cover-up. And you'll not see a word of apology. In fact, as recently as 2 weeks ago, they were still publishing what they knew were lies and repeating them. Now, we'll never sue them. They've got way too much money. And as a general proposition in the law, you don't sue people who buy newsprint by the gallon, because they always win. But if they had done what journalists are supposed to do and spoken truth to power, they could have slowed this train down. And there are a number of other people in Durham, some of whom teach for a living, who should have stood up and said, wait a second, civil rights means something. We spent careers studying civil rights. We're not going to throw them down the drain simply because a district attorney tells us to. One wonders what would have happened if the newspaper had stood up for proper processes, and if the teachers had stood up for proper processes, whether that would have slowed the last coward of the case down. And you know who I'm talking about. Now, I'm not going to say anything else about him because he's got a bar hearing coming up. And I want to give him what he tried to deny Reade, a fair hearing where he can put on his evidence. And I've got confidence in the state bar, and I've got confidence in their ability to decide that case fairly. And quite frankly, we wouldn't be here if the state bar hadn't taken the unprecedented action of filing an ethics complaint against Mr. Nifong in the middle of an ongoing prosecution. But I will leave him with this one thought. I want him to read Proverbs, chapter 11, beginning at verse 29. And I know everyone in here knows that, but I'll tell it anyway. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be a servant to the brave heart. Thank you.